Okay, so Rabsca can get literally any Pokemon into play. How? Well, with its Revival Blessing attack, which lets you get any Pokemon from a discard pile, put it straight into play. This lets you bypass all normal evolution rules and can get downright silly in doing so. For example, we can whip out some really fun cards. Let's have a quick fire round of some of the funniest and strongest targets. Beautifly lets you draw up to 6. That's one better than Bibarel, and will be so good with Iono in the format. King Gambit boosts your basic Pokemon's damage by 30, which also stacks too. Milotic makes you Iono proof of its ability, which could be a massive game changer in this format. Espeon VMAX and Toedscruel EX stop all effects of attacks, so Sableye can jog on. Metagross with its Zap Traction attack lets you grab 2 cards straight from your deck for 1 energy. This could be very useful in stalling archetypes, where you have your Radiant slot maybe already occupied by something else. This Dragapult does an 100 snipe for each GP you discard to one Pokemon, so if you Revival Blessing this Dragapult into play, you have a potential 400 damage snipe on your hands. We all know how strong Quick Shooting Inteleon is, so how about we guarantee getting one into play turn 2? Sounds fun. One of my favourite ideas though is to use Revival Blessing to get Archeops into play. This means you can make use of Primal Turbo without having to use Lugia V-Star. Think about how crazy that could get. Although if I'm honest, I think we are going to have to wait a little bit to get the best Rabsca target, at least that I can work out with for now, because this Togekiss from Obsidian Flames, which is guaranteed to be a pre-release promo, which lets you draw till you have 8 cards in your hand after your attack. Now that's a reload. So definitely give Rabsca a thought and throw some in your binder. There was a deck list at the last Champions League event in Japan that got all the way to 5-0. It focused on a cheeky little uncommon in Paldea Evolved that can hit up to 320 damage for 1 energy. Any idea what it could be? It's Grafaiai. You see, with its colourful graffiti attack, you can do 40 for each different coloured energy you discard from your hand. So we get to play all the basic energy in format, which makes me very happy, and with cards like Energy Retrieval and Superior Energy Retrieval, we can whip all those different coloured energies back into our hand really fast. Combo that with Buddy Catch Gallade and Lady, we have ourselves a nice little deck which is capable of winning at the highest of stages. That deck even played another card that I want to talk about in this underrated cards in Paldea Evolved video too, Grusha. I'm 100% convinced that Grusha can be a whole new deck engine. It lets you draw up to 5 cards in your hand, but if you have no energy in play, you can draw up to 7 instead. The Grafaiai deck played 3 of these because you only ever want to have 1 dark energy in play anyway, so Grusha will almost always be live. This provides a ton of good draw, especially on decks that rely on 1 energy attachment like Grafaiai, so throw a few in your binder. I used Oricorio a lot in pre-releases, and it was there I thought this card could actually be really strong. It has an ability which lets you heal 20 damage from your active evolution Pokemon. So if you had 4 of these out, Oricorio has the potential to heal 80 damage from your active evolution Pokemon. Imagine this in a deck like, I don't know, Goodra, where you're already reducing damage by 110, and then you completely start to remove the damage when it does come in. That seems a little bit rude. Glimmora is an interesting one, due to the fact I think it has 2 decent ways of playing it, but one of them looks impossible right now. So Glimmora has the ability Shattering Crystal, which when it gets KO'd you can flip a coin. If heads, your opponent takes no prize cards for that KO. Normally we see these kinds of abilities on stage 2s. And it even has a workable attack, Poison Petals, which poisons your opponent's active and does 60 in between turns. Couple this with Radiant Sneasler and you have a pretty high damage output all things considered. However, the main way I would want to play this is in a Strafe deck, but that retreat cost is just way too high, so I guess we have to stick to Little Mimikyu for Strafe decks instead. Bellibolt is a stage 1 EX card, which has the attack Paralyzing Ball, which is 160 damage and also allows you to discard 2 lightning energy. If you do, your opponent's active is now paralyzed. Auto paralysis is never a bad thing to have, as we saw with Silver Tempest Articuno. This I could see being a very good option in Miraidon EX decks, as they can be seen to be very one-dimensional, only slamming the active for a lot of damage. This could give them a really good mid to late game option to help close games out, especially with Iono in format. How strong would 160 damage be, plus paralysis, plus Iono to 2? That sounds like it'd be really hard to get out of. Weavile is an interesting one, because we're about to see Lumineon V, being played more, and Squawkabilly EX is starting to hit the format too. Weavile looks to help us capitalise on those 2 easy prizes with its ability, Assaulting Hunt, which lets you, when Weavile hits the active spot, boss up one of your opponent's basic Pokemon. Now this would have to require a heavy amount of switching in the deck to support it, but if you do, you have a real easy way to pick up quick KOs. Don't forget, this will also work on carrying your opponent's Rolts and Frigibacks, for example, and things like that. So if your opponent only has 1 Rolts in play, you can finish them off and the game off rather quickly by using this Weavile card. Pelipper will see competitive play at some point, I almost guarantee it to you. Its hearsay ability allows you, when you evolve it, to grab a supporter card, either from your deck or from your discard pile. This allows you to grab anything you want at any point in the game realistically. For example, if you need boss to win in the late game, just go and grab it. If you need research from the start of the game, just go and grab it. It seems pretty simple, but if you're a supporter reliant deck, this could be really strong at keeping you in the game and keeping you moving forward. Copperajah will be a strong budget deck in my honest opinion. It being a stage 1 with 300 HP is so beefy. In fact, scratch that out, because its ability gives it an effective 330 HP on a stage 1. Normally these heavy tanky Pokemon don't have usable attacks either, but in Copperajah's case that just isn't true, since it has the attack Nosequake, which does 260 damage. Now it does do 30 to all your bench Pokemon as well, but bear in mind Copperajah's ability, which means it won't do any damage to itself. And because Cufant is a 1 prize Pokemon too, you can leave it in play and keep as a 1 prize deck, like Lost Box for example, where you attack with Cram, Sableye and Zamazenta from Crown Zenith. And then in the late game, you can combine it with an Iono and start swinging for massive damage. Don't sleep on Copperajah. Last up now though is Noivern EX, another card I think is going criminally under the radar. It has a free retreat cost, which is never a bad thing, and it has 2 very good attacks. The first attack is Covert Flight, which does 70 damage and prevents all damage done to this Pokemon from your opponent's basic Pokemon next turn, which is nuts. We essentially saw this attack win the World Championships last year via Flying Pikachu. Sometimes you'll be able to just wall out your opponent turn after turn after turn with this attack alone. For other matchups though, you have Dominating Echo, which does 140 damage and stops your opponent from playing special energies and stadiums next turn. Bear in mind, Whimsicott V-Star got 2nd place at EUIC 2022 with a very similar attack, Trick Wind, but that stops special energies and tool cards. This, I would argue, is much stronger, since being able to lock in Path to the Peak seems absolutely incredible. Honestly, if Worker didn't exist, I could see this being a top tier threat, since you would be able to lock Gardevoir permanently out of abilities. But unfortunately Worker does exist, so we're going to have to try and find a new way around to topple Gardevoir, but until then we have a very strong rogue deck on our hands. So if you want to see another cheap deck video that I'm convinced will do well, then click this video here. Otherwise, make sure to check out this video's sponsor Pokédex, where you can get a fully built custom deck sent to your house as early as the next working day, and Dragon Shield to protect those cards with the best accessories around when you do have them.